Hello, so my name is Lily Landon, and for my logic project I've been doing the Tom Wolfert and the Lizzie Borden trials and cases and murders, and just to see if we can try to figure out what exactly happened on those 2 days. So today we're going to be talking about Lizzie Borden. So we're gonna go back to when she was younger, okay? So like Tom, she kind of grew up with her stepmom and her father, which is kind of weird because stepmother in both situations, and when they were younger their mother died. And so Lizzie had a sister, and her sister Emma was not at the house that day. She lived somewhere else in Fall River, Massachusetts. She grew up there. She went to school for a little while, but she dropped out in her junior year of high school. She was always kind of like a weird, kind of like odd kid. Her teacher said like she would just like be very like calm and like collected, and like she showed like really any emotion except for when she was mad, and she would just like go all out. Ooh, I'm mad at you. Like she would just be really angry, and like you would know when she's mad, but like in any other situation you wouldn't really know. So if she were to show emotion, that would be pretty rare for her. So a great example of that strong kind of emotion and like not very strong emotion was when she was about like a teenager kind of child, in that like age range, kind of when she was young. She got her hands stuck in a dumbwaiter, you know, which is like that big thing like this kind of, and like you'd put like food or like clothes or something, whatever you want to transport down or up, and you'd put it on it and you'd send it, let's just say down. So you'd send it down the dumbwaiter and then you'd receive that. And when it was coming down, she had her hands in it and they got stuck, and she was like, hey, can someone please get my hands out? Like she wasn't like screaming or crying or anything that I would be doing. She was just very calm, and she was like, hey, my hands are stuck, can you help me get them out? Which is quite interesting because I feel like we'd all be kind of shaken up if our hands got stuck in a dumbwaiter. She also had like these pigeons when she was little, and one time she disobeyed, and as a punishment her father chopped their heads off, supposedly, but actually he just strangled them. But like people said that he chopped off their heads with an axe. And speaking of chopping off heads with an axe, that's where this story kind of unfolds. So on August 4th in 1892, so like pretty much like just about 5 years after the Wolfert murders, is when Lizzie Borden's stepmother and her father were both murdered. And they were murdered with like an axe, and it was a lot. But so no one knew who did it, and Lizzie was the only one at or kind of in the house that day. And allegedly where she was during that time was, she said that she was out in the barn going to get a slab of iron. I was just wondering, you know, do you know what axes have at the tip of them? I'm assuming they have iron or slate or something like that. So it's heavy whenever like you hit with it. Like to chop down a tree, you'd either want to have like slate or iron, I feel like. So that's one thing that's kind of odd, you know. But also if she did it, then why would she like tell them she was getting iron? Like I would just say I was going to go check on my chickens or whatever, you know. But and then so she found her father and he was murdered, and like she like was like, hey, can someone come help me? Like what's wrong? And so she called for the doctor, and she was like, hey, I think he's been stabbed. It's too late. But then their maid in the house was like, she got back, the maid was somewhere else, and when she came back, like there's like the doctor was there, Lizzie was there, and Mr. Borden was dead. And so they were like, okay, that's weird. But then after that, well, just kind of sitting there, and then the maid was running errands, and then the maid's like, oh, well, what about like your stepmother, Mrs. Borden? And Lizzie oddly says, like, I don't know why this just sticks out to me so much. It's just really like weird. Like she was like, oh, I don't know, maybe go check upstairs. Okay, sure, you would tell someone like, oh, well, go check upstairs, but they had a bit more grounds than that. Here's the first floor layout of the house. and then the first and like the second floor, and then there's also a cellar. So I don't know why she didn't say, oh, go check the cellar, but she happened to just say, oh, go check upstairs, which was true. Like, she would probably be upstairs, and she was also found dead. But yeah, it was very odd, especially because she like told them like what Tom said when he said like check the well, and then there were like bloody clothes in the well, and then she said go check upstairs. And I don't know, just, those both kind of stick out to me. Like, why would they tell them where it happened, but then how would they know where it happened, kind of thing, you know? That is quite odd to think. So now we're going to talk some about the trials. So in the trials, again, Lizzie showed no emotion. She just kind of sat there, listened, like spoke when she needed to be spoke, was quiet when she needed to be quiet. But there was one point of time where she like kind of like fainted, almost, like not like full on like kind of fainted, but like she just kind of like sat there completely like still, motionless, like not moving, like not doing anything really for like just an hour straight. Like she just sat like a statue, almost like she had like passed out or like blacked out or something. And so no one really understood like what that was about. But also the judges asked her about her stepmother, and of course whenever he started, he was like, so your mother was found dead, but she cut him off right at mother, and she said, and she snapped back at him and she said, that's not my mother. So that also was kind of something that made me think like, okay, well, I understand, I'd be that way too, like she's not my real mother, but I mean, don't cut off the judge in a court where they think that you're guilty, you know, like one of the, after they looked through the case some more, they all voted her innocent. So she was not like hung or anything like that. So she was completely innocent, checked off the list. But it didn't really stop there, because as like the press and like the writers and authors, and then eventually back like going into the 1900s, which was not that long afterwards, like the TV writers and the movie writers and everyone would not let the case rest, and they like just took at it, and they like wrote about it and like filmed about it and did everything they could and to try to find an answer, and they haven't yet. Not quite sure they ever will, but you know, something could happen. They could like find like a letter or something. A letter. This week, Lizzie had been kind of upset with her father because he made her eat leftover mutton soup for 3 days in a row, and she wanted to eat a pear, so she ate pears instead, which that was just kind of something that was odd. Like she got really upset about it. Like, so she had gone into town and bought from this guy who worked at the drugstore. They called him like a druggist was in town. I'm not sure why, but anyway, so she went over to him and she bought, it's not potassium, maybe it is, because that's like bananas, I think, I don't know, something starting with a P. This is it right here, because I can't remember at the time. I know I should probably go check it up and then make this video a lot better by knowing. For like killing animals, kind of like if like they had to put an animal down, they'd give it to it and it would be like poisonous basically to animals, but to humans it was okay. It would just make you like really sick and like really bad. So they also kind of speculated that was part of it, but yeah, it's that theory that she used the same axe that her father used to kill the pigeons with to kill her father. Okay, so something else that happened that was also sort of odd, very out of the ordinary, but the same day, not weekend, but like the same day, like 2 days kind of before the murders, something else kind of odd that had happened was a lot of the neighbors had claimed to see, this was like either the day of or a few days before, no one exactly knows the exact time frame of this, everything that had happened, but very close to the time of the murders, they saw this guy kind of like walking around towards the house, kind of like going into one of the gates. And that was something that was odd because like he also looked really pale and like really like he looked like he was sick, kind of like he was like nervous about something is what people would say, which, I mean, if he had done it, he would have obviously been probably feeling kind of nervous, especially in something that's going to be uncovered in the big video with everything in it, all like the evidence, everything, how they could possibly be connected together. And another thing is, Lizzie had a bunch of old dresses, and her sister Emma was in town, and it was a day or two before the trial, so very close to the trial. The trial was about to start. The only time she showed emotion in this time frame between the murders and the trial was at her father's and stepmother's funeral, when she cried and like kissed her father. Just really, but they had his head turned. But all the skull was like, oh, that was not. Yeah. So anyway, so she the skulls were also like really messed up because of like where they were hit with the axe. But basically, her sister saw her, and Lizzie was in the middle of burning a dress. Okay, so she decided of all the times to burn a dress, and her sister Emma was like, what are you doing? You're gonna think you did it, because like if you see the person suspected of guilty of burning a dress, that dress could have been evidence that she did it. But she said that she'd been meaning to burn this dress for a while, but she just thought of it recently, and like she was like, okay, I gotta burn the dress now. Could have just been something that she had to use to keep her mind off of it. So quite odd indeed. So they found her innocent, and let me know what you think with all of this evidence, everything about it that you figured out. And yeah, I can't wait to see you in this longer version video that has both of the trials in it together, just so that way like you can compare evidence and try to figure it out. I will be too, but trying to figure out what really happened. So thank you so much for watching. I really hope you've enjoyed this logic project so far. So goodbye. Yay. They saw someone walking by.